Hey guys, Chicky456 here, back with another video, a speed paint video, but this is going to be kind of different because I'm actually going to put commentary over it. I wanted to go more in depth with them and explain them a little bit better instead of just showing you what they look like, etc. And just to give you some of my headcanons and ideas for these characters. So I was thinking back to like my old cartoon shows I used to watch growing up, nostalgic, that kind of stuff. And I remembered the show, Seven Little Monsters. And then that kind of got me thinking, what would they have been like if they got older, or more so if they grew up into teenagers? Because from the show's point, they were still kids, even though they were way bigger, but they were more like middle school, grammar school. And I wanted to think more what would happen if they became teenagers. How would they have acted in high school, that kind of stuff. That's what this speed paint commentary is going to be about. The Seven Little Monsters as teenagers now. So I guess they would be called the not so little seven monsters, or seven teenage monsters. But there are a few side notes I want to make clear. Yes, for one, I know they are all technically born at the same time. One's a few seconds or minutes older, but in this case, I'm actually going to make them a few years older compared to each other. I guess if you wanted to call them, maybe they could be like the monster years, since they're different from humans. And yes, there will be stereotypes, and I'm talking more like those high school drama shows or movies that have the jock, the nerd, the punk goth, the preppy cheerleader girl. I explain how each character works. So I just wanted to get that few points out of the way. And anyways, let's begin now. And of course, I'm going to be going in order from 1 to 7. Alright, so let's get started with 1. And the kind of high schooler I'm going to give her is the typical jock type. So starting off with the line art, as you can see, I made one more buff compared to what she used to be. She would definitely be the strongest probably out of the group, maybe next to 4. I decided actually she'd probably grow her hair out longer instead of keeping it the short cut. And her wings have probably grown out a lot bigger too. For personality wise, she's still the typical sporty tomboy like she is, and being the oldest one, in this case age 17, she'd probably be the most responsible one, and would also feel like she would be responsible too. Like if anything were to happen to the other siblings, she would feel like it's her fault, that she should have been watching them, she's the oldest and one in charge when mom's not. And when it comes to watching her siblings, I could actually see her being a pretty strong leader and take charge when needed. And if she needs to get bossy, she will get bossy. And even though she is a big sporty tomboy, I could see her still being close friends with her sister 6, because she is the only other girl in the whole group of siblings. And I could also see her and 2 having tension and fights between each other, just due to the fact that they're both going to be the same age. And 2's probably more so on the side of, hey, I'm the second oldest, you don't need to keep bossing me around or feel like you're always responsible for me. I can be responsible on my own, that kind of stuff. I could also see her part-time helping as a coach for a grammar school team, most likely baseball.
Hi, my name's Alfred D'Elia. At home they call me Big Al, and I hit dingers.
Gone forever!
Hi, my name's Gaetano Fano, and they call me Big Sexy. Hi, my name is Jason Court. Oh, I just found $1.
Middletown's money!
I also gave her a part-time job as a pizza delivery girl, because she is the fastest flyer in her town, so she can get those pizzas out and delivered pretty quickly. When it came time to color her, I decided to keep it pretty much the same to her younger design. I don't really see her being too much of the whole into fashion and design kind of style, so I could see her pretty much keeping the same kind of color scheme. Alright, now that 1 is done, we can move on to 2, who I decided to give him the typical band student in high school. So with his overall look, I could actually see him still keeping the long hair, maybe even growing it out more, and keeping it in a ponytail most of the time. I could also see him needing glasses down the line. He's the type of musical boy, band student, playing the trombone, but I could see him listening to the classic blues most of the time. I could also see him being the kind of guy in high school all the girls just fangirl over. When it comes to his personality, most of all, I don't really see too much changing. He might become more of a loner, just kind of wants to be distant from everybody else, do his own thing. Like I mentioned in the speed paint of 1, he would fight a lot with her. More so again just because he's the second oldest and doesn't think he needs to be, you know, bossed around by her. I could really see him turning to the mom of the family for advice most of the time, and more so talking with her, instead of going to the others. I could also see him being actually very smart in high school and has great grades, like he's advanced. Watch me try to struggle drawing a freaking 2. I also did give him a job as well, just like 1, and he works part-time at an instrument place, like one of those places that just sell instruments and gives simple lessons. Now when it came for his color scheme, that was actually kind of tricky. I didn't want to make him just look like his old self. Maybe he would change up a few things. He was actually pretty hard to come up with an idea overall. But in the end, I do like how his color scheme came out. Now that 2's done, we can move on to 3, which apparently is a lot of fan favorites. For 3, I decided to give him the stereotypical emo punk goth teen. Now I know a lot of you are probably like, hold up Chicky, why not make him the theater teen? Because in the shows, he would act as different people each day. And I was thinking that too. It was kind of actually hard to come up with a design for him overall because he would wake up each day as somebody new. And that kind of got me thinking. So here he is, we gotta remember he is a young child during the show, and so he's probably using his imagination and every day waking up saying, hey, I could go on a new adventure, I could be this, I could become this, etc. But as you probably get older, in his case as he got older into his teens, he's kind of beginning to realize that that's kind of impossible. You can't just suddenly switch jobs or switch personalities so fast and become someone new each day. You're kind of meant in life to just grow up, stick to one job, and just continue on your life like that. So I think for him that would actually be pretty crushing on his childhood innocence and imagination, which would lead him to become the stereotypical goth, emo, punk teen who just doesn't care anymore. So how do I view his personality? Well, I guess you could say he's the one that doesn't really care much anymore. He doesn't really know what to do in his life yet. I could also see him having kind of an attitude and temper towards his other siblings, mainly towards 4 a lot. They would probably get into a ton of fights. I could also see him actually picking on 7, the youngest, along with the others as well, just because he doesn't care anymore. I could see him actually becoming lazy at home and not really doing any chores or work around. I could see his grades being not the best, but not flat out the worst. Probably listens to, you know, all those hard rock punk songs.
Rocking out to MCR and celebrating 2009 or the new year. Which we don't really understand why people are making such a big deal about it, because really, one more year is one more year that everyone's closer to death.
You may also have not noticed this yet, but actually in my design, as you can see, unlike all the others, he doesn't have his number. And I like to think that if him not wearing a number, his number 3, that means he's technically considering himself not part of the family. He just wants to be distant from everybody. Okay, now that 3 is done, we can move on to 4, who I decided to give the big, bulky, jock football player kind of teenager. So for his design, I could see him really buffing up and becoming the strong boy of the family. And even though he has a big, strong exterior, I could see him still being a very soft, gentle, sweet boy on the inside. Like I stated before, he's going to be the football player, probably the best one on the team, honestly. I would also think if one wouldn't be able to do anything, or like watch over the siblings, she'd put 4 in charge, because he's the next strongest one, and probably the one that could be the next best leader. Like I've stated back in 3's part, he and 4 would get into a lot of fights. They would just be like angry at each other and hold something against each other even though no one would really know what that is. You may have also noticed in his design I gave him a broken horn, and I actually decided to give him that because he actually got in a fight at school, but that's because I made him 5's main protector. In the show he's always watching 5 and 5's always with him and he's taking care of 5 mainly. because 5 is his responsibility.
You have to watch out for 5. He's your responsibility.
He was only born 10 seconds after me.
But as he gets older too, he becomes very protective over 5, I would say. To make sure nothing's going to happen to his little brother. And that's where his broken horn came into play, because some kids were picking on him after school, and 4 got involved with them and resulted in him, let's just say, smashing his head to the side of a wall and his horn broke. He's okay, but that horn's probably not going to grow back. And also, since I said he is still sweet and a soft boy on the inside, he is 100% a mama's boy. He would so be that. Alright, now that 4 is done, we can move on to the adorable, sweet, lovable boy who would never hurt anyone and is nothing but an adorable marshmallow, 5. Now for his type I actually plan to go into, I'm going to have to explain a little bit more in detail. Now some of you are probably thinking I would have given him the typical dumb teenager, but I wanted to work a little bit different onto that. As seeing as he does kind of have a speech problem in the show, and this could be because he is really young, but still 6 and 7 are actually younger compared to him. Yet 5 kind of acts like the whole baby of the family. So this makes me want to actually kind of give him that later down the line it turns out he has a mental disability. So this means he would be put more in the special ed classes, so he wouldn't really be right along next to his siblings during school. And after finding out about the mental disability, this would also lead up to 4, like I stated in his speed paint, to wanting to be a very strong protector over 5, which then leads up to poor 5 getting picked on after school one day from some bullies, leading 4 to protect him and causing his broken horn. He would still have trouble with his speaking, and so he would more so use signs or actions with his hands to explain what he wants, or what he's trying to say. And even with his mental disability and being very childish, I feel like he could still pick up the responsibility if needed. I could also see him being the one in the family that takes excellent care of the 2 pets. And just like 4, I see him being a total mama's boy as well. And I would say too, overall, his design was pretty tricky to come up with. But in the end, I think he still looks adorable as ever. Still the good, lovable marshmallow that he is on the show.
5, have you been using my toothbrush to clean your ankles again?
Oh, pretty.
Okay, now let's move on to 6. For her, I decided to give her the high school stereotype of being the social media popular girl. Note, I had to actually fix her legs in the digital part because when I first drew her, I actually drew her and the paper was so small that I couldn't fit her legs on it. For her, I see her being the one that's more in the theater, mainly taking part in plays that has more dancing and singing. Speaking of dancing, she's still a great dancer as ever, and I could see her actually teaching probably middle school kids. And like I stated back in the speed paint of 1, she is best friends with her older sister 1, and I could see her being good friends with her younger sibling 7 as well. Even though she is the popular girl stereotype, she's very kind and sweet to everyone. She would definitely be the one that would be best friends with the new students that come in. And speaking of that, she'd probably be the one at school that has a ton of friends. I could also see her being the one that knows everything about social media. She has an account on almost everything, and she knows all about technology. You'd think she wouldn't, but she knows the ins and outs of like every kind of phone, computer, laptop, etc. And with that social media kind of status, she would know a lot about celebrities as well. And probably being the one that is into kind of like the drama and gossip, but would never spread anything. She'd just be the one that would stand on the side and watch it all go down. I could also see her having a YouTube channel where she does makeup. Not too famous, but she has a good following. Alright, the big finale was my favorite character who I think is just adorable and sweet, 7. And for him, I'm giving him the typical high school nerd type. So of course in his design, I gave him the typical nerd glasses and outfit. You may have also noticed on his design I got stitching on his arm. That is because he is kind of based off of a Frankenstein-like monster, so I thought he'd also have that, just like how Frankenstein's monster was all stitches. I would say his head is actually staying on a lot tighter. If you don't know, his head would always pop off on the show, and he'd end up losing it sometimes. But I think now, especially with the whole idea of bullies, he's got his head screwed on right. His personality, he'd definitely be the shy one at the school, not really up to making new friends, and more so would be the teacher's friend or pet. At least he could turn to them if he ever had troubles or issues and someone to talk to. And the teachers all would like him too, because he'd be very smart. He's got amazing grades, I would say. He's definitely going to be taking those higher level classes in the future. But he, of course, would have his group of nerd friends as well. 7 would also be the one that would always be up to help the school, whether it be fundraisers, passing out flyers, staying after school to help clean up with anything, helping teachers, that kind of stuff. When it comes to family time, he'd be okay with the other siblings, except for 3, since I stated in his part of the speed paint he'd kind of pick on 7. But him being the baby of the family, I didn't make him part of the twin sets. I decided to just make him like the only child that was born, and he's the youngest, and everyone treats him like the baby of the family, which now he hates, you know, the typical, you're the baby of the family, you're the youngest, that kind of stuff, and he just does not like it anymore. Oof. Alright guys, finally done with this video, and with all of these characters. Can you believe it? 7 different monsters and all different types. I hope you guys enjoyed this speed paint commentary kind of video. If you guys would like more of that in the future, hopefully I could bring some more. I might just stick to the simple speed paints I've been doing before, since this video did take some time. But either way, I hope you guys still enjoyed it. I hope you guys also liked my ideas for each of these characters. And if you guys have any other kind of ideas for them, you could leave it in the comments below. I'd like to know what you guys would think. Either way, again, thank you guys so much for watching, and have a good day. This has been a Chicky456 video.
I got wind of it.